By my beauty and grace, most games seem a disgrace. I bring simple, sweet synergy that all embrace. Your gross complications will ruin my allure. So swift do depart, before my colors you blur. With the gentlest touch, I have come forth to tweak a game many would figure had reached to the peak. But I paint on a smidge of new depth here and there, while treating new players with the tenderest care. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda, and on the table today, Canvas will face Canvas with the Reflections expansion. Although many of you will probably recognize Canvas, anyone who does not recognize this game should check out my review for Canvas. As for the Canvas Reflections expansion, I will explain the changes right now before the match. So, Canvas Reflections adds a bunch of different things. The first thing you're going to see is this board right here. Now, we used to have this board, and I actually don't know which one of these I prefer. I think it's kind of a 50-50 toss-up. This one has gorgeous art and really organizes the stuff that's added in the expansion well, whereas the old board has a little bit more of the canvas feel, which is a little bit hard to get rid of. So I'm going to leave that behind for people to figure out on their own, but let's go ahead and look at why this is so good at organizing all the new stuff. So first off, we have this organization system here, where it organizes all of our ribbons into sections. I really love this, and I also love how it delineates between the stuff you're doing to impress the judges and the stuff you're doing to make your own points in your own way. There are now two ways that you make points in your own way. There is the original gray or silver ribbons, which work just the way they used to, in that both the symbols here, for example, that match that one would get a silver ribbon, despite one of them not being next to it. However, with the new gold ribbon, which is added in the expansion, you would be putting something like this here, and this gold ribbon would only score for this one, the one that is directly next to the gold ribbon. The other one would not score for the gold ribbon. So, because of this, they give an extra point for your extra trouble, and it adds an extra layer of strategy that the original game didn't have. But most importantly, it makes it so that you can score points, a lot of points, without going for what the judges want you to go for, and instead kind of emphasize this strategy of doing your own thing for points, which I find really interesting, and I'd love to see how that compares to the other ones the more that I play this game. So, that is most of the top, but there is also one other thing when it comes to scoring the top, and it actually has to do with a new victory condition that you can optionally play with. So this was an optional variant in the game that they just put in with the expansion. This is the Best in Show ribbon. This represents the original victory, which was having the most points, the one we all know and love from every single Euro game we've ever played. However, Masterpiece is a shared victory condition. These would both equally win the game. And the Masterpiece actually plays more like a party game. At the end of the game, everybody will take one of the paintings they created, and they will explain why that painting means what the title says to them. And then everybody will discuss and figure out who has the best painting in the group's opinion. Whoever has that best painting will get this Masterpiece ribbon and will share the victory with the Best in Show and the most points person. That means that there would be two equal winners of this game, making it almost feel like a mix of a Euro game and a party game. This optional variant will have a huge impact on my later comments. But for now, let's go ahead and go down to the last section, which is right here. So you notice there's now a double market, but this market doesn't look like or work like the old one. First of all, you do not pay one on each of the ones in the row beforehand. The row is less important in this one than the column. You now pay by column. What I mean by that is, for the first row, it's free, like it used to be for both of the first row cards. But to get to the second row, you have to pay on both of the prior cards, no matter if you're taking the top or the bottom card. And if you want to go on to the next row, you'd have to pay on both cards. And finally, on the last row, you'd have to pay on both cards.
Notice that this spreads out the inspiration tokens, making a big move to the top really expensive and more expensive than in the previous game. And getting back your inspiration tokens is a lot harder than in the previous game. But you also have the added benefit of these cheaper columns having a lot more options, almost as many as the entire market in the previous game. The last thing that adds to your options are these flippable cards. So notice these paint swatches right here. These show, if you were to flip this card over, where these symbols will be on that card. So in this case, if I flip this card over, this will be purple, these two, and this will be red. So I flip it over, and it's exactly that. Whenever there's a card that doesn't flip over and change, such as green, because it's exactly in the middle, flipping over will be the same, and there's no symbol showing what flip over color it would be because there's no flip over color to change to. But these add an extra strategic element to the game and make for a very different strategy game than the original cards did. You may flip them over at any time, and until they are in your painting, you can do whatever you want with them to make them work for you. Round 1, Masterability. So in Masterability, I believe that this game went from a 4.5 out of 5 to a 5 out of 5, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's actually a pretty big deal to get up to a perfect score in Masterability. And the reason I think it got up to that perfect score was because it added a bunch of elements that made it so that you can more easily get around the luck of the market system. I do think the expansion adds more opportunities to circumvent misfortune. However, I do not think that this increases the game to perfect masterability. In fact, perfect masterability can only happen in games where strategy will always win and the matter of luck is almost not there at all. And in Canvas, the market luck clearly makes this impossible. Okay, I can see that point, but in my grading system, and I think in a truly objective and good grading system, we're not looking for absolutely perfect masterability to give a 5 out of 5. Even though that sounds like a perfect score, and it is a perfect score in some ways, I would say anything a 95% and over should get a 5 out of 5. If 95% of the time you are having people who have strategy win, or you're having people with experience in strategy win, that is generally a well done masterability game that deserves to get a 5 out of 5. Kind of like a student who gets 95 and above often will get an A+. It's the same way with a game. Now, the reasons I specifically think that it goes up this 0.5 and that you can now really easily circumvent the luck of the market system comes down to several of the elements, but I'm going to highlight a few of them. First off, these gold ribbons make it so that you can play your own game and score, unlike before, where you really couldn't play your own game and score as much as you could now. Second, you have the reversible cards. This in of itself makes it so that almost every card is now 2 cards, so that you have more options to make your game work the way you need it to work. Finally, and I would say most importantly, the Masterpiece ribbon in the optional variant is the ultimate way to balance the luck in this game. If you notice that you're having a really bad game for getting the points because everybody's just taking those cards that you needed, you can decide consciously, I'm going to go for the Masterpiece. I'm going to go for the card and the picture that makes people go, that is the best, and I want to make him win for the Masterpiece reasons. So, yes, sometimes you'll still get kind of hosed by what comes through the market, but all of these extra factors make it so that 95% of the time, the person with the best strategy and possibly the most experience is going to win this game. 4.5 to 5. Canvas with Reflections wins! Round 2, Universality. Canvas actually wins over Canvas with Reflections, and the reason is some of those tweaks I just talked about in Masterability actually hurt the universality. And then there are other parts of this, small changes, that have made it just slightly less universal from a 4.5 to a 4. Small factors remain precisely that, small factors. I understand subtracting points for the large or even medium factors, but subtracting for small factors constitutes little more than nitpicking. A larger board, some weightier decisions, slightly longer games, even together, these factors feel like a thin excuse for lowering the score. So I understand what Who is saying here. I understand that it almost feels like I'm trying to nitpick the game to bring it down in some category. But I'm going to give my argument for why I think universality went down. So universality is all about being able to play this anywhere with anyone at any time. And the expansion Reflections makes all of those categories go down by a smidge. First off, it makes it so that you can't play it anywhere as easily because this board was a lot easier to take places, take out, put on a table than this big board that we showed you earlier. Second, you have the problem that it got a little bit longer. So playing it any time is actually a little bit more difficult because you're going to have enough time to play the longer game that this has kind of become with all these extra elements. The last thing that has made it a little bit tricky is that there are so many more things to think about, so much more to master, that it might actually end up intimidating some people when it really shouldn't, because this masterpiece ribbon really says, hey, you can go out there and play whatever game you want. And that's why I didn't lower the simplicity of this game, because now it's so simple that if you were playing with kids, maybe you just play with the masterpiece. Or maybe you play with the masterpiece and the best in show together, so the adults have a competition and the kids have a competition. You could do all sorts of things for simplicity, but when it comes to universality, people, especially adults and thinkers like myself, are going to have a hard time going, this isn't just a cop-out. This isn't just me wimping out, I couldn't play the game. This is actually me winning the game by the rules of the game and in a good and valid way. And I saw this firsthand, and I totally think this would happen for a lot of players. Thus, all of these different small things bring it down by 0.5 points. Remember, 0.5 points is not very much to go down. So it's still a highly above average game and still very universal. It's just a smidge less than it used to be. 4.5 to 4. Canvas wins! Round 3. Thought. Canvas Reflections beats original Canvas. And the reason this is the case is because this game has a little bit more depth, and that extra depth really makes you want to come back to that puzzle right away. You're immediately thinking, oh man, I just did that tiny move wrong, and that made it so that I would lose. Giving a perfect thought score for the addition of a few options seems rash. Yes, you have a changed market, reversible cards, and gold ribbons, but this all appears little more than window dressing. Of course, this does add some fun energy, but more thought, certainly not. So, I understand that this might have a slight sound of window dressing. A lot of these are very similar to the original game, and so I even saw one reviewer who said that this is just more of the same for Canvas, and in some ways that's true. The puzzle isn't a brand new puzzle. It's still a very similar puzzle, but there have been some massive changes. First of all, the fact that you can win without getting the most points is in of itself a huge strategic game changer. It means that sometimes you're just going to have to go, I'm not going to win the most points. I need to switch over to trying for the masterpiece. Or everybody's going for best in show. They're all trying to get the most points. They're taking all the cards I need to switch over to masterpiece. That decision could mean your victory or your loss in this game. On top of this, the gold ribbons add so much in the way of you can now put this together with the silver ribbons to get a really large number of points. This is worth 3. The silver ribbons are worth 2. If you got a lot of the same symbol in there and you had those scoring ribbons, you could get nearly 10 points per picture without even getting any of the judges' ribbons. And then finally, flipping over these cards and the fact that you have 8 cards to choose from is just such a mind bender. And it's even worse when you have to constantly be flipping these cards over in your head, going, well, I have to put this together in this 3D way, but this one actually could work like this. And then finally, you have the extra crunch of this market system where instead of having to pay 1, 2, 3, 4, you're sometimes paying up to 6 inspiration tokens to get one card. And then after doing that, it's going to be very difficult to get almost any inspiration tokens back a lot of times. So you have to be very, very sure that that card that you got was worth those 6. But if you don't take those risks, sometimes those cards will disappear and somebody else will take it and you will lose the game. There are so many things from the Masterability being increased that makes this thought puzzle just so crunchy, and I can't express how excited I am to play this game again because there are so many new strategy avenues to explore that before weren't quite as valid or couldn't possibly win you the game, but now they can. 4.5 to 5. Canvas with Reflections wins! After listening to your reasoning, the judges have decided a winner in this familial debate. Canvas with Reflections has defeated Canvas. Canvas with Reflections received 4.9 points and a golden recliner. The judges would generally recommend this game to anyone, whether a seasoned board game veteran or a new board game enthusiast. Canvas received 4.85 points and a gold recliner. The judges would generally recommend the game without the expansion to anyone not fully convinced of the brilliance of Canvas, or for anyone not quite wanting such a puzzle as Canvas with Reflections. Additionally, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. And for anyone who wants to help keep this channel going, please click on the link in the description to our Patreon page. Thank you so much for watching, and join us next time for a special buyer's guide.